guys, back with a new video and a new pistol for you. This is a generic, who knows made where, what, when, but most likely Belgium. Whatever proof marks were on this thing are long gone. Picked it up for about $100 from a antique store, and the biggest issue with here you can see actually, sorry, that this used to be a Flintlock that was converted to Percussion. A lot of the screws have been replaced. Everything is wonky and loose and flippity floppity. And my biggest complaint about this pistol is the classic, somebody went to it with steel wool, and or worse. But I think this type was just steel wool, so what I want to do is bring it back. So I'm going to use this Barrel and Brown ND greaser from Mountain Forge. Laurel Mountain Forge to be specific. You can still get this stuff. Mine's kind of old, but they're still selling it. I'll give you a link to them. And there'll be a second video coming out on how to use this exactly. So, disassembly. There's not a lot of preservation going on this. I believe I've already dunked it in boiling water at some point in the past. I've had it for a few years now, but I thought I'd give the restoration process a bit of a go, because it just looks out of place amongst all my other antiques. It's shiny. It's... ugh. It's just... ugh. Not being too careful with the screwdrivers. The screws aren't set particularly hard. It's a soft wood that the stock is made out of, so you can't crunch down on it very hard. So an undersized screwdriver is not going to do much damage. With these, you got to push the hammer back so it's not sitting on the nipple, and then just wiggle, 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 wiggle. We know the song. And then you hit yourself in the stomach with it. So there's the lock on the inside. You have the sear mechanism here, which is not holding exactly right. So I'm going to fix that up. It's had quite a bit of wear over its life. The tumbler is the big silver part in the middle. There you go. The tumbler has part of the sear mechanism on it. The big L-shaped piece is the trigger bar. So the trigger pushes on that to release the sear, or the tumbler. And the tumbler's attached directly to the hammer. So right there where that's interfacing, you can see it's all rounded off and worn from this distance. If you can see it, it is really bad off. The barrel itself is at this point only held by this one pin at the front and the one screw on the back. If you hear any noises, that's me drinking. So first thing to do to get the barrel off, you could remove the back screw if you want, or you can start with the pin, doesn't really matter. Just using my block here to get it raised up. I'm not too worried about damaging anything. Damage is going to come when you try to reinsert the pin. If you don't do it perfectly straight, you're going to push wood out of the way on the other side and have a blowout, which is a horrible thing to have on a pistol like this. Survived this long, I don't want to screw it up anymore. Grabbing a pair of pliers. Not touching the wood, just grabbing the metal. It's hard to tell on camera, but keep metal away from wood. Essentially if you're going to be using any metal, make sure the metal you're using is softer than what you're working on, like the brushes and things like that, or else you're going to scratch. If you use a brass brush on steel, you're fine. If you use a steel brush on brass, you got scratches. Barrel's out. You can see there's been an attempt, who knows when, to repair that crack, which makes sense if you look at where it is. It goes right through where the barrel pin is. So on recoil, that pin is the barrel's trying to rotate backwards and pulling up on the wood. There, the mechanism, the conversion mechanism, just unscrews that easily. Which is a little scary, but I'm not planning on firing this thing. So what I'm going to do now is just disassemble the lock. So, took the main pressure off the mainspring. The mainspring has been like riveted in place, so that's not coming off. But every other part will. So there's the trigger bar. Sorry, hiccup. Trigger bar removed. That is the spring for applying pressure to the tumbler to keep it engaged. Now the problem I'm having here is the hammer fit to the tumbler and the space in between the lock is a bit much. You can see here that it moves freely, but it does that side to side wobble, which is you don't want. I've already tried to unscrew that screw, but the screw isn't coming unscrewed, it just spins, which tells me one thing: there's no threads left on that. So the question becomes is how do I get that screw off to get the hammer off? And like most things in firearms, there's pretty much only one solution. Your block and a punch and a tiny hammer. You can see my tiny hammer off to the side there. You can also see my mouse too. Not really paying attention. Tiny hammer time. And tiny punch time. Tinky 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 tink. Tinky 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 tink. And there we go. Comes out. The post is even soldered on correct. I don't even know if that's the original head to the screw. It doesn't really matter. So I want to get that hammer to sit closer to the tumbler. And how am I going to do that is the question. Just seeing there's no threads. I mean, that's perfectly smooth. That's why I'm running my thumb down. It's just sliding. There's not even... So I could make a new screw as well, but in this case I'm not going to. That fit was for the pin was quite strong, and all the screw really is there is to basically stop the hammer from sliding out. So if the pin seems strong enough, and I'm not going into battle fighting... Well, I'm Canadian, so I guess I'd be fighting the Americans in 1812. So I don't have to worry about that. Not this is an 1812 gun. This is some private purchase. So you can see the gap there, and basically what's happening is that square block that I'm now cleaning just to get all the grease and grime off of it, so I'm working on something clean, is kind of well, I don't want to say pyramid. It's slanted. I don't know what the term you would use. So what I'm going to have to do is cut down those sides a little bit so the hammer will fit flush. And I'll show you by cutting down the sides. I'm going to be using a file. And you can see there's a flat. There's 4 flats, just like a square. And you can see where the file's cutting. It's cutting low first because that's where the material is thickest. So I'm just trying to just take a hair off of all the corners to get everything to straighten up. I'm going to test fit now. And you can see it's still sitting proud. There's a gap at the top. I want that to sit even and flat. Sometimes you can massage this kind of material. This iron is going to be pretty soft, so you can get, a fraction of a millimeter movement. But in this case, not enough. Realize what the problem is these corners aren't cut square. I don't know if they've worn that way. I have no idea how this pistol got in this condition. So I'm going to grab a diamond file here. They're just make quick work of everything. If you're ever working on hardened materials, you're going to have to use a diamond file. In this case, I'm just using one because I like them, and they're lying next to me. So squaring out those corners, making them more triangular. This is a triangle-shaped file here, so it's giving me a nice 90-degree cut. And I mean, you could barely see the material coming off. That's a little's coming off. It's hard to go too far. You can see it takes quite a few strokes with this to even remove a little bit of material. So I'm just working each corner once. I haven't test fitted it yet. So all 4 corners are getting squared off. And the other thing about doing this too is you're not going to have the rotational forces in the corners. You're going to transfer it to the flats, which is a larger surface area, so you're going to be doing less wear. But again, in this case, this is a wall hanger. I don't know who made it, and I don't think I'd ever trust it. I don't think I would have trusted this pistol when it was new. There's some pistols you pick up, it's like, oh, I'd fire that now. And there's some you pick up and say, oh, man, this thing must have been nice when it was new. And this is like, oh my god, this is terrifying. So now you can see that's fitting a lot more flush. So, and it's tight, too. It's no longer wobbling around. So I had to use a punch. And that's how you get these out. You take the screw out, you pop this into a vise where the tumbler's hanging loose, and then you just hit it with a punch. Somebody just texted me. I probably need my ducts clean. There you go. There's the fit. There you go. No wobble. To be continued, guys. The next video will be grounding the barrel. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the flip side.